Hi, I'm Daniela, and this is Jocelyn. Thanks for coming back to our channel.
We've been married since March of 2020, and we've been trying to conceive since October of 2020. And this is our story.
In our last video, we talked about endometriosis laparoscopic surgery, what it entails, that we were having it, and all the things that come with it. In this video, we're going to give you a Lesbi-Honest update of our follow-up appointment, and we also have our very first guest on the show, so make sure you watch till the end to hear an expert's opinion. So I had endometriosis surgery and I recovered, and the next step in that process is going for your follow-up appointment. 2 weeks after my surgery, we went back in for a recheck with our doctor. The main goal of this appointment is to make sure that everything looks good and there's no restrictions so we can get started on our path to make a baby again.
We have been waiting so many months for this moment.
When we got to the recheck appointment, it was about mid-October of 2022. I was feeling really good. I felt like my recovery process was very smooth, and obviously like rechecks are pretty easy appointments, but the first thing we did in the appointment was we talked about my biopsy results and the things that they couldn't remove as well. So all of the things that were removed were definitely endometriosis. There was spots on both of my ovaries, and it looked like that the endometriosis actually was like adhering my ovaries to the body wall, so they were able to free it from there and took out a bunch of other spots, including like an area on my cervix, some spots in my uterus, and all the biopsies were endometriosis on those. There was one spot that they couldn't remove, and that's because it was on a vessel, and they were afraid that obviously like there's a lot of complications with removing things on vessels, as well as they wanted to make sure they kept my uterus healthy and the blood flow to my uterus healthy so that it doesn't affect my fertility. Dr. Tang talked a lot with me about my recovery process, things I was feeling, like what were the most difficult spots for me and how I feel now. So we talked about all of that, and I know that I've shared with you in the past, like I think, moving around was like a little painful in the beginning. After like the first week into the second week, the incisions were so itchy, like to the point where I felt like when you scratch a dog and they like shake their leg, like if I like gently like just itched a little bit, it was like the most relieving feeling in the world. So they were really, really, really itchy. And she said that some people can use creams or Aquaphor to help with that itchiness. I did not. I just like moisturized around the area and tried my best not to scratch them. Then we went on to talk about my incisions, how they looked, how they were healing. She said they all looked really great. Around my belly button incision, I do have like some discoloration and bruising still, but she said that's very normal and that should typically resolve very soon.
So after everything was checked out, Daniela's questions were answered, and everything looked and felt like a healthy recovery, we are relieved and excited to say that the doctor cleared us of any restrictions and let us know that we can start trying when we feel comfortable again.
Mm-hmm. Overall, our appointment was a success, and we can get back to doing things as normal. The only thing I haven't gotten back to doing as normal is like wearing pants. That part sucks because like for some reason all my pants live like right on my incisions. If it's not hitting like 3 of them, it's like they're just really digging into it, especially the belly button one. I'm always sensitive about my belly button. You can ask Jocelyn. In real life, like I do not like my belly button to be touched. I really don't know why. So I feel like having this incision on my belly button has been extra dramatic for me. Like I'm like, my button. But I just been wearing pants either really, really high or not at all because I really just don't like the feeling of it. But you did support me by buying me a bunch of fashionable nightgowns.
I wouldn't say fashionable, but I would say at least something that you felt comfortable in.
Yeah, they're cozy.
Now, as promised, in addition to our update, we have a special guest joining us today. Dr. Karen Tang is a nationally recognized leader in women's health and minimally invasive gynecologic surgery. Most importantly, Dr. Tang has been our specialist throughout this whole process, so we'd like to give a huge shout out.
We were really thankful to be able to work with her.
Although we did just give a little introduction, can you please start by sharing a little bit more about your years of experience and your areas of expertise?
Dr. Karen Tang. I'm a minimally invasive GYN surgeon. I have been in practice. I've been in practice since 2010, focusing on endometriosis and GYN surgeries.
What drew you to this career path?
So I always knew I wanted to do women's health, reproductive health. Surgery actually came later in my training. Earlier in our, OBGYN residencies, we do a lot of obstetrics, and then later on we do more operating. And I just fell in love with the surgeries. They're really fun and interesting, and they really affect people's quality of life. So surgery like this for endometriosis, is so straightforward to do sometimes, but really makes the world of difference in terms of someone being in a lot of pain, having bowel issues, not being able to go to work, and really transforming their life and, being able to do the things that they want to do again. So, just for the impact that you can have on people's lives, was, really exciting to me. Plus, the public health aspect of things like advocacy for reproductive health. It had everything.
From your expertise, what are the most prominent signs and symptoms that women should be mindful of?
That's a great question. So the biggest symptoms are pain with periods and pain with sex. Now, a lot of people with endometriosis also very commonly have a lot of bowel symptoms because a common place for endo to grow is between the uterus and the rectum. So a lot of people will actually go first to a primary care doctor or to a GI doctor because they're having a lot of constipation, diarrhea, bloating, pain with bowel movements that seem to get worse with their periods. So that's sort of the clue. If you're having a lot of bowel stuff, you notice that it's getting worse and worse around the time of your period or with ovulation. A lot of people may not necessarily connect that that's actually a sign of a gynecologic problem. So those are the most common things. And then, like I said, some of the pain with sex that can be from either just inflammation or the muscles of the pelvis can kind of tighten up because of endometriosis.
Can you share more about what you've learned about the correlations between endometriosis and infertility, if any?
Yes, there's actually a lot of connections. So both endometriosis and adenomyosis, which is a variation where there's endometriosis type tissue actually in the muscle of the uterus. Endometriosis is more classically associated with difficulty getting pregnant. It can affect the tubes. It can cause scarring of other organs in the pelvis, including the fallopian tubes, and scarring the tubes off can obviously prevent you from being able to conceive. And then also it can affect egg quality. A lot of people don't realize that the inflammation from endometriosis can inflame the ovaries and actually diminish egg quality. So there's a couple of different ways that it can affect fertility. It also it can do things like have a little bit of a higher risk of miscarriage. We're not quite sure why that is. It could be just from inflammation of the endometrium of the tissue in the cavity. For whatever reason, people do tend to have better outcomes with their fertility after endometriosis is removed.
Are there any misconceptions about women's health or endometriosis that you would like to dispel?
So many. How long do you have? The biggest one is that painful periods are normal. I hear this every day that people are told, oh, I told my doctor I had painful periods or I was missing school when I was a teenager. And they said, oh, that's just what periods are like, that's normal. It's not. If you're having severe pain, you should always get checked out because there's always a chance that that could be endometriosis, and it's so common. Also, things like fibroids are really common too, also cause similar symptoms. So it's never something that you have to just suffer with. You should always be able to find some sort of relief from it. And if there's a concern about endometriosis, it is something that we would want to know sooner rather than later so it doesn't have a chance to kind of get worse and worse and maybe affect your fertility. So number one is if somebody's telling you, oh, your super bad pain is normal, please get a second opinion from a specialist. So try and see an endometriosis specialist who can talk to you about all of your options, including laparoscopy. Another is actually that endometriosis only affects women. Obviously, non-binary people and transgender men get endometriosis too, even if they're not having periods. So if you're on testosterone, if you're having no periods whatsoever, you can still have endometriosis. You can still have pain. So same for cisgender women who are on birth control and maybe don't have periods, but maybe are still having pain. A lot of times people think, oh, if you're not having periods, you should have no endometriosis problems, and that's also a myth. So again, the problem affects a lot more people than you would think. A lot of people get told, well, that can't be endometriosis, and then that's not true. So if you ever feel like something's not right, definitely go see a specialist, a pelvic pain specialist, what we call minimally invasive GYN surgeon, endometriosis specialist. We all kind of specialize in finding, issues like endo and treating them.
As an advocate for women's health, what's one thing you wish you learned sooner that could help women or society in general?
I didn't realize how common it was for people to get sort of misinformed about some of these issues, and I wish I had done social media a lot earlier. I didn't start doing this stuff until like 2019 because I'm old and like I didn't have Instagram, I didn't have Twitter and nothing. And just kind of, being out there and realizing like how important this information is and how much of a lack of resources there are for people. So that's why I started doing the videos, the YouTubes, the TikToks, and now I have the book writing about all these problems, and just trying to get the word out as much as possible. Spread the word to your friends and family. You don't have to suffer. You can get relief. So many of these things have pretty straightforward treatments that we can help you with. So don't just sit in silence.
For anyone struggling with unexplained infertility or any of the above described symptoms that Dr. Tang just listed, we're here for you, and we hope that you find the resources you need to heal or grow. We're super thankful that Dr. Tang was able to work with us and collaborate on this episode, just as we've collaborated on her YouTube channel. We'll leave a link to the channel in the description below.
And don't forget to keep your eyes peeled for Dr. Tang's book.
It's coming in early spring 2024 with Flatiron Books in the North America and Penguin Life in the UK. And we actually just found out we have a deal for Spanish language rights as well. So it'll be Spanish language version. Working title is called It's Not Hysteria, because so many of these issues in gynecologic health, like people get dismissed and are told like, you're just overreacting, or, this is normal. Why are you acting this way? Or why are you worried about this? When it's problems like endo, adeno, fibroids, PCOS, PMDD, where there are treatments and there are things that we can do. So the whole point of the book is basically a little guide to all of these problems, kind of like the new version of Our Bodies, Ourselves, to educate and empower people about their bodies, and so that they can know what might be going on and how to get help for it.
Okay. Wishing you all the best of luck on whatever journey you're on.
If you haven't done so already, please like and subscribe.
See you soon.